Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Heysal podcast. Today we have episode number 21, I believe. Intern Peter for the first time here. How's it going?
It is going good. I'm back here. I'm excited to get going with the show. I'm really excited, so let's do it.
Great. I think it's episode 21, isn't it?
Oh, it is actually episode 21.
All right, good. I just keep losing track of all these episodes I'm producing. And today I have with me a special guest. And if you live in Rome, I'm sure you heard of her. Patrizia Di Gregorio from Expats, living in Rome, and many other projects. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Great. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I know that you had some troubles getting here with your
the share and go.
The share and go. It just stopped in the middle of the street.
It didn't. It just started. It didn't even start. It just rolled back and then wouldn't start. And I wasn't sure if I should get out and push it or call, but it was fine. I called them, and they were efficient. You know, it's kind of scary before.
Right.
To find out what's going to really happen.
But I'm happy you got here without being hurt, without hurting anybody. So.
Exactly.
So let's see. For everybody who's listening or watching this here on YouTube, maybe it would be interesting to hear your backstory before we talk about your project Expats Living in Rome, which I'm sure most of our viewers and listeners have heard of. Why did you come to Rome, first of all, and what was your life before you became the founder and CEO of Expats Living in Rome?
Well, that was the question I was afraid was going to come out right in the beginning of the interview. But so what it brought me here to Rome was I was actually deported from the United States.
Really?
Yeah. So I know it sounds like...
Deported? So
deported.
Okay. What happened?
Yeah,
what did you do?
It's not what I did. Yeah, I did. I did it. It's true. I did. They don't deport anybody just for any reason.
Right.
They do deport people for a reason. I immigrated to the U.S. when I was a baby.
Okay.
And my parents...
How dare you?
How dare I? was only 13 months.
Right. So
my Italian Southern parents brought me to America with my 4 other brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. And basically we've never, I at least didn't ask for my citizenship, nor did I... think about the immigration process,
right.
And we're talking about 1972. When I got deported or picked up by immigration, it was 1999. So the information, I was a little bit ignorant to the law. A lot of situations, I didn't ask for my citizenship, and later on, I suffered consequences that caused me to be deported when I was an adult.
So you were at least 27 when you were.
I was picked up when I was 27. I spent almost 2 years in a detention center.
That's crazy.
I fought my deportation case for the whole time, which I did not realize that when they pick you up, they give you a piece of paper and say in 10 days you will be shipped to your country, removed from the United States. But I was like, this is insane. I have 2 children. I came here as a baby. I did not know. I was not, properly. I should have asked for my citizenship, I guess. But there was a lot of reasons I didn't ask for my citizenship because my parents did not want us to integrate into the culture. They were really racist. They were from southern Italy. They didn't want us. The plan was not to remain in the U.S. The only reason I remained in the U.S. was because my mother died a year before we were supposed to return and live foreverly happy in southern Italy with my parents and my youngest brother. But my mother died a year before that, and I turned 18, and my dad had some medical issues. He wasn't able to take care of me and my younger brother. And so we ran around, and we were, not the best teenagers. So we were on probation, picked up for shoplifting, troublemakers, trespassing. I mean, we were a little bit, I guess, I should have put my brother in it. I was a bad influence to my little brother. He was only 13. He was also suffering from, loss of my mother and our mother and stuff. But in the end of the day, I got picked up way too many times from the police. I was picked up 6 times in 13 months before the age 18. But we're talking about a crime of stealing my father's car and getting picked up for grand larceny in the 4th degree, and then having it dropped. I mean, these are all, yes, crimes that I did, but, in the end of the, they didn't deport me when I was 17. 11 years later, the immigration laws changed, and retroactively they picked up a lot of us and tore us away from our families. And at that time, I had 2 children, so I had to leave the children.
So you had basically a whole life there until you were 27, and probably never crossed even your mind that you would be deported.
Never.
Man, that's hard.
It was devastating. It was hard. It was really hard. I didn't want to go. It was not going to stop without a fight. I wasn't just going to have them deport me and to somewhere I didn't even. I visited twice. I didn't have plans to ever return. I had a family there. I wanted my children. And I didn't feel it was fair that you actively would deport me 11 years later and destroy my life in this way. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I didn't know because, we had lack of internet. If we had internet at that point, if we had it what we have with social media today, I don't think this would have ever happened. But yet, when you watch television today, you see it still does happen.
Right.
And, families are torn apart, And my kids suffered for it. And this is something I can't change.
Right.
And this is something that's still affecting my life today. So it's hard, sometimes to go to an event and and people are excited. They want to live here. They want to fight to live here. And they ask you, why are you here? And I can't always say, obviously I got deported because it'll bring up a big. I mean, most people do know. I've been on an Italian talk shows about it. But that's how I got here in lovely Rome. I love it, but it was a hard move.
And so, are you still in touch with your children now, or?
For many years after I was deported, I wasn't allowed to have a passport or I had no ID, so it took 2 years before I would be able to see them, and they were young. And I had to go to court and do the process for that. And, obviously, when I got deported, I only had a voyage sheet of 48 hours. And back then, you would have to get Western Union, but I didn't have any documents, so I lived in the streets for quite a bit until I was able to figure out what my next step was. But eventually, after 2 years, I was able to get a passport, and my kids were able to come to Rome once. Then I got a passport, and I was using Canada to visit my children, so they would drive through Buffalo, and we would meet in Niagara Falls or Toronto or Windsor. And we spent 3 months in the summer together as a family.
And how was the first time that you met each other again after all this happened?
We met, when was September 11th? 2001? God, that's bad, right? To not remember 2001. Is it? God, you don't know either? That's bad. You better delete this.
Yes, it is.
It is. So the children were able to see me in detention centers through a window, obviously. They weren't able to have... sometimes we were able to have contact, but it was only an hour visit. When the detention centers are super full, they ship you hours or places away that are really difficult for a family to get to you. So, it's... With them in school, it was hard. But I got to see them that summer before September 11th, and they left 10 days before September 11th, which then later they no longer wanted to fly. And at that point, I decided, let's just meet in Canada.
Right.
And then in 2009, I was offered a job and a sponsorship in Canada to immigrate. I was filled out all the paperwork, and that's when Canada said, you were deported from the U.S., you are no longer allowed in Canada.
What?
So I was blocked for both countries.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Whoa.
No. So I was later blocked in Canada, And for many years, my father has been sick, obviously. You know, he was sick when I was young. And so for 13 years, the first 13 years of my deportation, because obviously I won my case. If you see me, I go to New York or the U.S. a lot. I travel into the U.S. now. I got a visa for it. I have a waiver from deportation. They kind of pardon that, and I'm allowed to go back and visit, be with my family, but I'm not allowed to live there.
Okay.
So at least they'll let me in there. But it took 13 years and $45,000 to do that.
Wow.
And a long, long process. Exhausting process.
Right.
Okay. Just to give you an idea, I remember being denied a visa to enter to reunite with my family for the reasons that I had too many ties in the U.S. that I would risk that I wouldn't come back and I'd be a flight risk.
Right.
So I'm thinking to myself, like, if I have that much family ties in America, why wouldn't you want me there? Why don't you want me with my family? I don't understand this. You had me prove that I have family ties, that my children have hardship for me being separated, but I am denied because I risk that I won't come back because what, the kids need me that bad? I don't understand who makes these decisions. But, you know, in the end of the day, they see probably a thousand of sad stories like mine, and everyone has one. You know what I mean?
I think the problem very often is for them it's just a number. Like, they don't know you, they don't know
Right,
who you
you're
are,
not-
they don't see the person behind that statistic. And I suppose 72, so you went basically, or deportation was in 99, right? So basically you went through Bush, Obama, and
No, Clinton.
Clinton too, right?
Clinton.
Wow. Okay, so basically you had 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. Okay, but basically for you, from your side of the story, it didn't make much of a difference, I suppose. The laws are always what they are, right?
Well, yeah, the laws are, you know, like people say, oh my God, Trump, what do you think's going to happen to you? I'm like, I don't know. It's been happening for 20 years. I was
Right.
deported 20 years ago. Let's get real, people. It doesn't matter who's president. They don't care.
Right.
I mean, what they do and what you see on TV is what they can't, you know, there's no solution. Let's get real. There's no solution to it.
You don't think so?
I don't think there's a solution to it. I mean, obviously, I got a sad story. I should stay in the U.S. for my children. They could have overlooked, you know, the problems I had as a child or whatever, but they didn't, and they didn't care, and they do this all the time. And when you tell them you have rights, they'll tell you have the right to shut the fuck up. When you're an American citizen, you can have all the rights you are. Go back to your country and have the rights over there. That's where you have rights, you know. But I was fortunate that it wasn't a country like El Salvador, Ecuador, or, you know, South Africa. I mean, Haiti. There were women in there. They were from countries. They didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, you know, there was no internet. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen to me either. I mean, they literally wake you up in the morning. I didn't know I lost my appeal. I didn't know that they were just going to grab me with no bag and $150 in my bag, in my purse, in my account, and put me on a plane and land me in Fumagino and hand me over to the police. When I asked them what to do, they said, go do whatever you want to do.
So when you arrived here at 27, you didn't speak Italian, or did you?
Well, I spoke a Southern slang from my parents. You know, a slang that was outdated by 28 years. That, you know, that basically not many people understood, and it was also mixed with English. I mean, my parents kind of modified the language during the years of not speaking English, and my parents were, you know, they didn't speak English or Italian very well.
And then what happened when you arrived here? Like, they just grab you there,
They
bring you
dropped
here,
off
drop you off where?
to the police at the airport. They just sign you in, and then they just say, go, do whatever you want.
That's it?
That's it.
You're on your own?
Yeah.
Different country? Have you visited Italy before, every now and then?
And the sheet they give you is 48 hours, so you can't get Western Union.
Right.
You got I had $150 in my pocket. I was deported with another person. And, you know, and 4 agents brought us, you know, because he was a male. And he told me that was the second time being deported. And he said, I was crying the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to do. And he said, this is my second time. He goes, just follow me. I'll have my family come and get us. We'll be okay. I mean, it was my only, I didn't know anything. I didn't have anything.
Right.
Just maybe some hope through him. He ended up scamming me,
Really?
in the end of the day, because, he's a criminal. He got deported. He's already been deported twice.
Right.
So
Jesus Christ.
he said he didn't have any money in his account at the detention center. I had $150. So he said, well, just change your money, and when my family comes, they'll take care of the rest. So let's just get out of the airport. He goes, we'll just get a cab. Which, this is 2000. This is the year of the Jubilee and Gay Pride. And it's May 7th. And it was hot, okay? And I had on a Hanes shirt, Hanes pants, and some white sneakers from the detention center, and a bag with some letters and cards that I collected. And legal documents that I had through my case I was allowed to take. And they changed the money, and I got the cab, paid for the cab, and he said, told the cab to take us to a hotel. I know it's going to sound really stupid. A lot of people are going to laugh, but they took us to Via Veneto. But I had no idea about Rome. I didn't know where I was.
Of course.
How could they took advantage of us.
Yes.
And he said he knew what he was doing, and obviously he didn't know. I didn't find out. I didn't know. He didn't know what he was doing until later.
Right.
Until probably a year later, where I was. Via Veneto, to me, wasn't any different than any street in Rome.
Right.
It could have been in Piazza Vittorio. Now I know the difference. If I'm going to get a hotel room, I'll go to Piazza Vittorio for my budget, not Via Veneto. So obviously, between the cab and that hotel room that he claimed he was going to pay as soon as family came, I paid for all of it, but I later even got kicked out of it because I asked them to tell him to pay for the room because I knew he was going to leave.
Right.
And they asked us for ID, and our IDs were not valid. And so I said, can my sister charge it? Can we put it on a card through America? So when they realized we had no ID, and so he just said, you got to get out of my hotel.
All right.
And so the next morning, I was already out and with 20,000 lira in my pocket.
So basically, at this point, you have hit bottom, basically. Rock bottom, right?
Yeah, really bottom.
How did you get out of there?
Oh, that's a long story.
It takes a lot of strength to get through this and to get out of it. And then, basically, it's remarkable what you did in the end. You kind of, from nothing, built this whole network that brings joy to people, actually. You bring joy to people, but it starts from this
maybe
place
it's
of
what I've been through.
desperation.
There was nothing here for us. I remember just going places and trying to figure out how to get papers or carta sanitaria and how do I build a life and where do I get a job? And, I had to start from nothing. And with, like today, kind of when people complain about, they can't do it. I'm like, I didn't have a smartphone. I had no money. They barely spoke English. Are we joking? You could do it if you... The only thing they gave me was a free ride here. After that, it was me, and it was nothing. And you have all these tools today. Facebook, social media, Google. Smartphones, Navigator. Let's get real. Car sharing.
So easy. We don't even realize.
They have it made. What else they can't get a visa? Anybody can get a visa. Let's get real. Get a lawyer, get a visa. That's how it works. If you really want a visa, you can get it. You don't want to pay for it. You don't want to go through the process of it. No one's going to hand it to you. No one's going to hand it to you, and it's sad, but sometimes I can't, be that angry with them because I don't want to act like so aggressive, like you could do it. Come on, I did it from nothing. It's not about that.
But
it's
you did.
You did. Smack them in the head.
Today you can Google your rights. back then there was no Google, or I'm not sure if in 19 there was probably Google, but probably was shit. I don't know.
There are so many
don't
blogs
remember.
about everything for
Right.
an expat right now that they have a blog even how to eat gelato, not just the flavor, how to eat the gelato. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, we're spoiled. We're spoiled.
Right.
You know, so. What's your next question? Because you're not sure.
So that was question number 1. Hey Peter, in there, are you okay?
Yeah, are you okay?
I'm still recovering a little bit.
Are you? Did I tell you I was going to shock you?
No, it's incredibly humbling story, I think. Very moving.
It is, absolutely. I didn't expect that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know.
It's just. By the way, Peter, we're recording this, right?
We are recording this.
Okay,
I've
good.
checked several times. Intern Peter can.
Thank you very much, intern Peter. So you arrived in Rome. You had this whole backstory.
Don't talk about that arrival.
We were gonna skip past it now.
Okay.
So then, how did you end up starting? Talk about expats living in Rome,
Yeah.
because that's something that most people connect with you. How did you come about the idea to do that? Maybe it's connected to what you went through, but maybe it's just. Maybe sometimes these things happen also by coincidence. I don't know what motivated you to do it.
I mean, I guess my father in America, he was really worried, and he kept saying to me, he spoke Italian, "Va conoscere gente," which means go and meet people.
Right.
Maybe somebody can help you. Maybe find an American, in the military, at the ambasciata. So
Okay.
he just kept on, but he also told me, go make a deal with the frutto vendolo, and maybe you can sell some fruits and vegetables in front of you with a blanket. I mean, he gave me ideas, but I was like, Dad, I'm gonna handle this. And I did find family members in the South, and I went there. And they wanted me to kind of keep the secret about myself because they didn't want everybody to know. So basically, I had called my dad, and I said, Dad, I can't do this. I said, I can't live in this small town. I said, I'll go nuts. I said, I'd rather die. I said, what am I going to do? I'll never get my kids back. I'll never get anything done here.
All right.
He said, just go to, I said, I got to go back to Rome. I got to figure this out. So I just went around and I was living what I'm doing now with expats is, and helping them is all the things that I did and what they needed. And so meeting other people, like, not through social media, but, on the Spanish Steps and Trastevere, at bars, we had the phone, we could only send an SMS. So they'd ask me questions I'm like, oh, go to this office. They could do this and that for you. Because I already did. I was homeless for a year. I literally been to every office in Rome. I know what they all do. And I didn't speak Italian. They had to help me in English. And the little Italian I did know. So I knew where to send people to get help. And I knew places where you could get help or get someone to help somebody I knew and ask for favors. You know what I mean? And start translating or trying to, so I just started doing it right from the beginning, obviously. And then when I got a job, I was working, obviously like everybody else, teaching English. And so I taught at a school. And then I started doing expat dinners and English dinners with the students, mixing that up and having, trying to make friends and whatever. And then at the end of every dinner, I always said, if anybody needs any help doing anything, I literally was like 1 out of 10 people that had internet at home. And I started knowing how to use Porta.
Right.
So I could help foreigners find a place to live in Italian because there was no easy stanza, there was no Spada home, there was no Zappi rent, there wasn't these tools, crib rentals, and everything else that we have today.
So
in
if somebody
English.
doesn't know, Porta is a newspaper basically with where you can put in announcements.
Does it still exist?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Probably now online.
Just
more than
online.
offline.
I don't use it at all anymore.
don't know.
But it was the newspaper. Everything you did was Porta Portese newspaper. They didn't have it in English. It was all in Italian, but the best rooms were on there. And you just went through every ad like the old days, and you called like the old days and asked for an appointment, no navigation, and you got lost for hours.
Right, that's what you used to
That's
do.
what I did.
That was what you did back then. Young folks listening here right now, this is how we did shit back then.
Yeah.
Different times.
And I learned to get a scooter real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to ride, and then, you know, sometimes if they were good friends, I would take them on the back of the scooter and bring them to each room and show them the room. So I just helped people I knew at the time, and there was no website, there was no Facebook, there was just an SMS and us meeting at the Spanish Steps or at a dinner, and then, you know, it was very simple. I think it was a lot more fun than it is today.
Yeah.
I feel like
How so?
I waste a lot more time on social media making plans and chats rather than just getting the hell out of the house and meeting you there. Let's talk about it. You know,
Right.
really. I mean, you get so many options. You got to figure out which one you can do after you spend 2 hours of making plans on a WhatsApp message. It's just,
Right.
before it was a lot easier. SMS, you didn't want to pay 15 cents to send another one. Remember? It was 15
right. So
cents.
you literally thought a lot about what you were writing in a very short and concise way, put in as much information. Now you just blabber because it's free.
Right, exactly. Now you can talk for
Horrible.
hours about nothing.
Yeah.
'Cause it's free. So you didn't
Crazy.
waste your messages because they would take it from your phone. It was a lot more expensive to use the phone back then than it is today.
Oh yeah, it was very expensive.
Yeah. Now they want to give you free minutes and free this and free that. They just want to keep you on the phone.
It's true.
Yeah.
And they succeed, I think.
Succeeded. But so I taught English. I worked with rich and famous people
Right.
and their children, their rich families, and I loved them, and it worked out with my life because I got to work with them during the school year. They're off of school, they go on vacation, and I went to see my children for 2-3 months on my little vacation, and that worked for a few years. But then I decided that I needed to find me a real life because I didn't have anything for me. I was just working and trying to get to the kids that I didn't have a social. I was too busy. I couldn't see my friends anymore. I lost connection. Facebook came out, was like, all right, I opened up every group. You know, I wasn't even thinking of like a brand or, you know, a logo, just expats. Okay, let's expats living in Rome. And I stressed expats living in Rome. Because, I mean, I was running an MSN group called Expats in Rome, in Italy.
Okay.
For years, but I kind of neglected that. But then I didn't want to do expats in Italy and provide all that visa information, and it got boring. That's all I was doing is providing information, right? And no one was, you know, paying me. I want to see people. I want to meet people. So I said, expats living in Rome.
So at which point in your life are we now? How many years into living in Rome?
2007.
2007 now.
This was 2007. Okay. Actually, I became single again, and I called it Living in Rome 30 and Above. Because I didn't want just expats living in Rome. I wanted people that were over 30, like myself. And I said, let me do this before I turn 40. Because if I turn 40 and I call it Living in Rome 40 and Above, we're going to be really old. I said, let me do Living in Rome 30 and Above. And it blew up.
Okay.
I did one event a month. Okay, before I was doing the dinners, and people knew me. A lot of people were like, oh, well, you disappeared. I didn't know if you were doing. I was like, yeah, my life got busy, traveling to Canada, and then, you know, taking care of my, you know, my problems. I was like, but, you know, let's do this once a month. And it really went well. And then they were like, can we do it twice a month? I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it twice a month. So it was every other week. Then it turned into every week. And then it turned to 2 days a week. Then it turned into 3 days a week. And then I just said, you know what? I am becoming very unhealthy with you people. I cannot literally be meeting for cocktails, dancing. I mean, this is just too much. So and by 2010, it grew really large, but I decided I should just move to Canada and try to move, even though they blocked me. I said, I'm going to give it away, let other people run it. Let them enjoy it, and I'll go to Canada. But it failed.
Okay.
Not only did my life in trying to get to Canada fail, but also expats living in Rome kind of failed. Nobody really wanted to go anymore. It just kind of lost its sense. Nobody was given that information anymore.
Because you were not behind the whole thing for that period of time?
I wasn't providing information. I mean,
Right.
How many times am I going to answer these visa questions? People, read the post. Do a Google search. You can't, it's like so much faster if you just either searched a group or searched in Google. It's written. So I can understand 10 years ago, it wasn't written that much. But I've literally copied that so much that my fingers should have fallen off, from the rolling the mouse and Control V, the same questions. You know
People
what I
are
mean?
so lazy these days. It's incredible. And they want the
want
information immediately. It's like continuous whining about things. And I want information now, and I want it immediately. I want it fast. I want it accurate. And for free.
And for free. And for free.
Right.
And for free. Well, you know what? I don't mind answering the questions for free. But the thing is I think the reason why they're asking the question is not that they didn't Google search it. And this is right directed to the visa problems. It's like they don't accept the answer. Like you read it, it tells you what to do. If you don't want to do it, hire someone to do it.
Right.
And if you don't have the money to do it, then try to do it yourself. Because even if I give you the answer, the same answer is right on the website. I'm not going to change it to what you want to hear. And I think this is what the problem is. And I can understand that because I had that same problem. Because I just felt like everywhere I read about my immigration case, I really didn't think I could ever win. And I mean, I literally, the last time I did win, and I don't want to bring it back to my immigration, is that I called a lawyer. I called a few lawyers, and they told me all no.
In the US or
everywhere? I've searched the whole world for a lawyer to fight my case to get me back. I mean, I literally was told I would not win my case. I would need a pardon from the Attorney General. They were not going to let me back in. And I was like, I am not going to accept that. But I did accept it for a minute, okay? And when I accepted it for a minute and then I found out my dad was ill and dying, I called my last chance. And that was another beautiful, beautiful moment of my life where I met someone that came into my life. And if it wasn't for Expats Living in Rome, I would not have met this person. And she gave me that contact.
Wow.
And in that particular moment, she helped me, gave me the contact, and she said, if anybody can help you, this lawyer can. And I said, okay. So I went to that. I called her, and she said, I'm going to tell you, it's going to cost you. You got to look at it this way. You're going to Vegas with a lot of money. If you win, you got your money back and you're happy. But if you don't win, you're going home with nothing.
You knew what you were getting into. So basically, prepare your mind for losing.
And I said,
okay,
I'm going to gamble. I said, take my money and let's go. And my family, 5 brothers and sisters, all called me. My family, my friends are like, what are you doing? You've lost everything. And you're going to do this?
You never gave up?
And I said, I'm going to do it. I said, and when I won at the U.S. Embassy, the lady that checked me in that day, she said, when you came in and brought your application, I would have never suspected that you would have gotten this positive answer.
Oh, wow.
And when I went into the U.S. and they stopped me at the border, and each time I go, no matter how many times I go, they have to pull me in and do the question. They are very shocked that I have that waiver in there. That I had an officer say, take a picture because it'll be the last time you see one of those. So, I mean,
really?
Yeah, I worked hard for it. But anyhow, how did it expats? That I came back in 2010, and I said, I got to change. I got to do something to make this as a business. And that's when it just blew up. I just started, with the logo and the website and trying to make it a business and try to find sponsors and try to help more people and try to, do the best I can, I guess. That's all I do every day, do the best I can.
What can people expect when they participate in one of your events?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot. What they can expect is a lot of nice people, interesting people, and a great network. There's about a minimum 80 people that come out every Tuesday night.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not easy to get 80 people out every Tuesday night, right?
It's true. Tuesday night is usually the worst.
And that's because the numbers are low now because of the winter. But I mean, it's a great network.
Speaks for you. I remember actually, I think I was at one of your events years ago. without knowing that it was your event. I think I even saw you there mingling with people, but of course there was no connection back then. Along the Tiber. I think you also did some events along the Lungotevre, right?
Yeah.
Because some friends invited me over to participate.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, is there anything that happened during the events or any positive stories that came out of the meetings, mingling between people at your events?
Well, besides that, a lot of people connect and find jobs.
Right, so it's
or information or good friends. And then we had about 35 marriages. That's 70 happy people.
Huh.
A few divorces, unfortunately, but
shit happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the ones that I know about. There's ones that I find out by people that attend and say, hey, you know, did you remember so-and-so and so-and-so? They used to attend. I'm like, yeah. How you still talk to them? They're like, yeah, they got married. I'm like, they got married?
What?
Yeah. It's strange. Yeah.
Okay.
So I find out later. So I don't know all of them, but at least 35 I know of. Yeah.
And so what's the plans for the future with this whole endeavor?
Well, I just asked for fundings from the government, actually, for a space for expats to have a community center.
Wow.
And my aim is and goal is to try to provide as much as I can free for the expats as far as information or even events or trips, and try to find fundings and maybe sponsors to help us keep running. I don't know if I want to retire with expats, but maybe I can hand it over to the next expats and maybe move on a little bit. Maybe not now, but maybe in the future.
Right. I mean, you tried it once when you went to Canada, right?
I've tried it several times, but you know, things are different. I think a little different now because I don't know. I still have a dream that expats can go on without me. Yeah.
That's a nice thought for the future, for all far down the line.
I know my competitors would be really happy if it didn't continue without me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's competition now.
Oh yeah.
As compared to back then.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you got to look at it. It's a personalized. You know, expats living in Rome is personalized, and you know, I don't want to say it's the best expat event. I mean, there's so many out there. I mean, there are other networks that are similar and almost called like mine. But I still think that Expats Living in Rome is the best, at least for me.
Do these events usually connected to a venue? Let me check my phone, actually. I hear something buzzing the whole time. I'm not sure if my phone is kind of on airplane mode or not. One second.
Peter, what do you want to ask?
I don't know. There's so many different things.
You got to kind of can't make it too exciting. It has to kind of
I'm on airplane mode. So. Yeah, Peter, hey, you got a question?
I guess, what's your favorite event that you put on with the expats? Like, what's the thing you look forward most with the events that you put on?
You want to ask, or can he hear?
No, it's on the.
Oh, all right.
he's on the tape.
All right. What I like are the trips. They're a little bit more timely to organize, a little bit more expensive to organize, but the trips for me are the best. I like to spend the day out on a Saturday or Sunday seeing a small town, or you know, seeing something different than always just going on Tuesday and hanging out. And you know, believe it or not, I'm not a drinker. So it's not like I'm there on Tuesday having beers and wine. Usually I'm having water all night. But I still go to bars in America or anywhere, even if I don't drink. You know what I mean? But
So you do drink alcohol sometimes? Or
I probably have a glass, maximum 3 glasses of wine a month.
Wow.
That's how much alcohol I drink, yeah.
You're very disciplined.
No, I just don't like it.
You see, for me, that's a big problem as a musician. Not drinking if you are in a live music venue. So, yeah, it's good. Very good.
You know, it's weird because a lot of people come to the event and they'll say, let me get you a drink. I'm like, no, go ahead. I got one already. And I just, before I was like, oh, no, I don't drink. And they're like, come on, just have one. And And I'm like, I don't know, it's empty calories. I like to eat.
Right.
You know what I mean? A glass of wine is equal to pasta, and I really have a weight issue here, so I'm going to have to pick my, I'd rather have the chicken wings tonight.
All right. Any other questions, Peter? Intern Peter?
I mean, I think we've touched on pretty much everything. What do you think?
Yeah, so where do people go if they want to find out about your events?
They can
your projects.
Go right to Instagram. We're on Facebook, Expats Living in Rome. There's a little logo with a girl with short hair having martini, and that is actually me 20 years ago with short hair.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Without the martini, but the martini was just a little...
Dean Martin-esque.
Yeah. That was supposed to represent me. I wanted a logo, just my haircut back then.
All right.
Yeah. And they can find Expats Living in Rome on Facebook. We have an awesome group. We have 25,000 followers that are on this closed group. There's a lot of information there. There's you can make a post on there. You can sell something on there. You can do anything. There's a lot of interaction. You will not believe there's a lot of interaction on there.
Well, thank you so much, Patrizia, for coming on the show. Thank you very much for opening up about your story and talking about everything. It was quite the intense life.
Shocking.
Not shocking, no. I find it mostly very, in a strange way, I find it very motivating and very astonishing to see the power that you still kind of accumulate, the strength that you kind of can activate and could activate and still keep fighting. And I hope you will. I hope you will have a lot of success and a lot of luck going forward too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrizia.